Todd, did you wear knee pads playing football?
I did.
Did most people?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, the Broncos are definitely going to have to bring their kneecaps this week when they're playing the Lions, because the Lions are going to be going after their kneecaps. Here's why.
Kick you in the teeth, all right? And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Why kneecap? Why? That's like maybe the most gruesome injury. Like, was it? I don't think it was Mahomes, but there's a couple of players that have been injured, and you've seen like the kneecap in a different place. That is so disgusting.
I think, was he trying to say because like they're getting knocked down, and maybe that's like the first thing you can kind of get to is like the kneecap. Yeah, he's trying to take somebody out, man.
He is. And that was Dan Campbell at his introductory press conference. This is his 2nd year on the job, right? So that was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But Dan is going to have his guys ready to go. I listened to just like a minute of his press conference yesterday. And what was that, a Thursday? It had me fired up. I'm against the Lions this week, and I'm ready to go. And he's going to have these guys fired up. So the Broncos are going to be have to be fired up, or they could find themselves down 14-0. And what Dan was preaching was, he said, our best players played bad this past week.
They did.
And I'm going to be calling on them. I know that they're going to have a bounce back game. And just the way that he talks, I was ready to go, let alone his best players. And you noticed that the best players had a down game last week?
Yeah, they played really bad. St. Brown and the tight end definitely weren't who they normally are. I think the running backs did good. They had like 120 yards between the both of them. But Jared Goff, again, with the fumbles and interceptions. So we hope that this continues, that they play like this week, but they definitely weren't themselves last week.
Yeah, and when it comes to Dan Campbell, is that something where if you've played for a coach or an opposing coach, gone up against a coach, if a coach is able to get his team that fired up, do you notice your coach try to match that energy as well, or do they kind of ignore what the other coach is doing?
No, I see a little bit of like tit for tat. Coaches try to one-up each other on the intensity level. I don't think Sean's talking about kneecaps this week, but he's definitely trying to get those boys fired up.
A little extra?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a little extra.
And how good is Sean at firing the guys up?
He's good. I think he's not like super loud, but he's very intentional with the words that he chooses. I mean, even giving bats to players, like, that's intentional. I'm trying to fire you guys up. And it worked. So I think he'll have the guys ready to play because just like that Browns game, this is going to be a physical one as well.
Yeah, it really is going to be a physical game. And let's dive into the game. But first, got some injury updates. Sean, one of the things he's good at is firing guys up. One of the things he doesn't like to do is give us any injury updates, but we've started to get some as this week has gone along. You want to start with the really good news or the good news?
Oh, it's all good?
I think it's all good.
Okay, let's start with the good, then go to the really good.
The good news, Nick Bonito, we haven't heard a word about him other than he left with a knee injury in this past week's game, and then he left the locker room wearing a knee brace. That didn't seem good for a couple of days. There was no news. And then it was like, wait, no news might actually be good news with this. And then Sean, I think, really made it good news yesterday when the only update he gave on Bonito was when he was asked, is Bonito going to go to the IR? He immediately said, no.
That's good.
That is good.
That's really good. So there's better news than that?
There's better news than that. And that is really good news because he leads the team in sacks. In fact, how good is Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions?
He's pretty dang good.
Nick Bonito has more sacks than him this year, which is crazy. The number 2 overall pick last year with Hutchinson compared to a second-round pick in Bonito last year, who I should just speak for myself. Myself wrote him off after last year just because of how disappointing of a year it was. He has 7 sacks on the season. Aiden Hutchinson, who we're going to talk about, has 6.5 sacks on the season. So it's really good because I would imagine that if he had a torn ACL, something that was obvious, we would know about it by now. And he'd be put on the IR.
And he'd be on there without a doubt. They really wouldn't waste time if that was, the case. So that is good news that he's not, seriously injured, and hopefully he can come back maybe this week, maybe next week. But we know he's close to being back.
Yeah, and my guess, he hasn't practiced yesterday, and I don't think he's practicing today. My guess is he's probably not back this week, but this playoff push that we're talking about, if the Broncos make it, that's going to be big. So I think there's even better news than that on the injury front. Tell me if this is better news. Greg Dulcich is off the IR or returning from the IR, practice yesterday, full participant.
That's really good news. Should he play? Are you asking me?
No. Can we learn from the first time around?
I think we need to. I think we have to learn from our mistakes of the past. So
I saw some people on Twitter, though, Todd, saying, this is our most important game of the season left. Let's have it. I'm like, 1, this isn't the most important game left in the season. And 2, remember what the last game they brought him back was?
No, but I remember he was only out there for a short period of time.
It was a short week, too.
Yeah.
It was the Thursday night game against the Chiefs.
It was.
What is this week? A short week. I know it's not a Thursday night game, but it's another short week.
Yep.
Do not rush him back. Even though Russ said he looked good, was running really well yesterday. I talked to Greg in the locker room. He said he's feeling good. Please, let's take this slow because, again, the Broncos now, is this a must-win game, Todd?
No.
No,
ultimately.
It's not a must-win game, and so the Broncos have their sights set on something bigger. It's the playoffs, and it's a playoff run, and especially if they drop this week, then maybe the next week. That importance is a little more because it's an AFC game, and then also your room for that you have in leeway has kind of been cut in half. That game's actually more important than this one, and that's when you want Greg. So I don't want to see Greg out there this week.
And we've been getting good production out of our tight ends. Like, we know that Greg may be able to take it to the next level, but Kroll and Troutman have been doing a good job catching some touchdown passes. And then Manhurts is able to block Khalil Mack one-on-one for the touchdown. Like, we're getting good production right now. We don't got to mess it up. Just like, you know what I'm saying? Let him get healthy before we throw him back in the mix.
So, and Todd, I know you really trust and love PFF's rankings and grades. You know who the highest rated tight end in the NFL was last week?
Kroll.
Close.
Who was it?
Troutman.
Oh, dang.
You were close, but when it comes to Kroll, twice in the past 2 weeks, Sean Payton's been asked about the tight end room in general or about, I think yesterday he was asked about Dulcich, and he has not been asked about Kroll, and he's gone out of his way to talk about the young kid, as he calls him, Kroll, and how good of a job he's doing in that receiving role. So you're right. The Broncos, they didn't have a tight end and no production from tight ends just a couple of weeks ago. Now it's starting to pick up. Speaking of PFF, you know who the highest rated quarterback was in the NFL last week, according to them?
Who?
Russ. I was shocked when I saw that. Now, I think it was the lowest, highest rated position. So, like, Russ had the lowest, highest rate of any position last week. But still, I was surprised to see that. So they're giving some love to Russ. And just so I'm totally with you. Let Dulcich sit for another week. And now let's dive in. Well, PJ Locke has not practiced with a neck injury. And from my understanding, I think, like, he got hit in the throat or something like that, and they're categorizing it as a neck. But he hasn't practiced. That actually, I guess there is a little bit of bad news because he hasn't practiced for 2 straight days. Not sure if he's going to practice today. A short week when you're dealing with a throat or neck could be a little tricky. That could be a big one if they don't have him. Yeah,
I think he's an important piece to what they're doing right now, whether it's blitzing, being great in coverage. He's definitely, shown up in the back end of that defense. So that's a big one. I hope it's not like, a big knock to his arteries or anything like that, but we need him back.
Yeah, they do, or else it's DTY, who just hasn't played a lot, or JL Skinner, who really hasn't played a lot. And the Lions, we can dive into them. They're a good passing team.
Yep.
They're a really good running team.
Yep.
And then their defense is where you kind of get an easy path to. But when you look at the Lions, what sticks out to you, Todd?
Really their running game. I feel like, our running game has been better over the last few weeks, but I also feel like it hasn't been tested truly in the last few weeks. Yeah. Also Eckler, what did he average? Five yards a carry when he had it. Both the backs that we're going against this week both averaged, I think, 6 and 6.6 yards a carry last week. So that's a little scary for me going in. Jared Goff has had his issues, so I'm less worried about the pass this week. I feel like there's some things that they got to get figured out to get him back on track. Hopefully they don't do it this week. And then, like you said, the defense is, bottom 10 in a lot of different categories. They'll definitely allow us to make some big plays and take some shots. Aiden Hutchinson is a very good player, but he's definitely blockable and definitely beatable. So I think we have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for the first time in many weeks, at least, that I can remember, this is a game where the Broncos, I think, can win if the under hits or if the over hits, because I think that the Broncos can actually score some points against this Lions defense. But I want to start exactly where you started, with the Lions running backs. Would you say pretty much every team in the NFL now has multiple running backs, but some are a true split backfield and some are like a 1 and a 2? Would you say Javonte's pretty clearly the Broncos' number 1 running back?
Yeah, for sure.
I would agree with you there, and that's why this is what surprised me. The Lions are really a split running back field between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the rookie. Javonte, or those two guys, have more rushing yards than Javonte. They individually, splitting the carries, have more rushing yards than Javonte. And Javonte's had a good season, not an elite season, but a really good season. So that's not to bring Javonte down. That's to show how dangerous this rushing duo is. Javonte has 650 rushing yards on the season. Both of those guys are right around 700 or more, which is crazy. Especially with how good their pass game can be. It's not like they only run the ball like the Broncos have really tried to do these past couple of weeks. No, they throw the ball as well. But like you said, both of those guys are capable of averaging over 6 yards per carry.
Yeah, they're talented, man. I mean, I watched David Montgomery for years in Chicago. He's still that bruising back. I think Gibbs is also talented. He's a little bit quicker, I feel like, than Montgomery is. And the thing about them is if the pass game isn't working, they really rely on their running game to try and get the team started. So it's not ultimately their bread and butter, but they're pretty balanced as a team, and they can do both really well. So I think first and foremost, we got to stop the run. I think our back end is good enough to match up with their wide receivers. So it's going to be a big game for Josie and Alex and those guys up front. You got to stop the run this week.
Yeah, stop the run. And then Sam Laporta, let's dive into some other guys on that offense. And after you said bread and butter, I was really hoping to transition to hero bread, but don't have that right now. Instead, I'll tell you about some other food. Factor meal kits. I love Factor, and there's a lot of meal services out there, but the thing that stands out to me about Factor is just how delicious it is when it comes to the flavors, when it comes to the variety, and when it comes to just the quality of the food. I got a couple of chicken dishes a few weeks ago, and the chicken was juicy. And I'm like, how does this happen? You guys send it to me, and the chicken's still juicy after I throw it in the microwave. And it's because it's fresh. It's not frozen food, and I think that's what really separates them. They're America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, and they can help you for any meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. They also have smoothies and other things. So whether it's too busy with the holidays or you just want something that's delicious, going to be a well-rounded meal, you can check out Factor. And when you check out Factor, they are going to hook you up if you use the code DNVR Bronco 50 at checkout. No S on that. DNVR Bronco 50. Go to factormeals.com/DNVR Bronco 50 and then use that code DNVR Bronco 50 to get 50% off your order. Great time to do it now or even after the holidays. So check out Factor Meals.
And check out our friends over at DraftKings. Who are the pretenders and who are the contenders? We're more than halfway through the NFL season, but DraftKings Sportsbooks is still pumping out unbeatable offers every single game. New customers can just bet $5 on anything to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. 5 for $200, you can't beat that. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resorts, Kansas City, licensed partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbooks.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Nailed it. Sorry, Ty, I didn't realize I left you.
No,
that
you
one.
did. Yeah, I was like, no, he didn't. Just
I never do.
I was like,
always
he
try to take
always
that
does the
for you.
DraftKings. And I was like, you know
I was
what?
literally on the food train, so I was like, I'm just gonna roll with meal. And then I looked up, and was like, oh man, I'm sorry.
But we're a team. You got my back, I got your back. You know what I'm saying? We make it work.
You crushed it. And speaking of making picks for this weekend, join us with our Splash Sports picks for this weekend. Get in before this afternoon. What you do is you go to Splash Sports, click the link in our description here. We've got it, splashsports.com/DNVR. We're making our picks for the weekend. You guys can get in as well. And the more people, the bigger the prizes. We're giving out not just the cash prizes that come with joining, but we're giving out free DNVR merch each week. So make sure to check us out over at splashsports.com/DNVR. Really to just get in on the fun and the action of picking these NFL games with Todd and I. All right, back to the Lions. So we talked about the running backs, but it doesn't stop there. Jared Goff. I think when people still think of Jared Goff, they're like, backup quarterback. He was traded plus multiple first-round picks in order to get Matthew Stafford. That's what the Rams did. But Jared Goff has been really good. But you pointed to it. He started to become a little bit of a turnover machine.
He has.
And I think last year into the start of this year, he had some crazy streak of like not turning the ball over.
Yep.
It was like hundreds of passes that he had thrown without turning the ball over. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now he has 10 interceptions on the year. So he's not necessarily like a turnover machine in terms of leading the NFL, but in the past couple of games, he's racked up a couple multiple interception games. So the Broncos can get him and turn over the ball. And that's just what this Broncos defense does best.
Absolutely. And just like we know, I think turnovers come in bunches. So you either get him in bunches or you give him in bunches. And he's certainly been giving the ball away. So that's one thing that we can take advantage of, because even though this defense is not the greatest, I think our offense is still going to need help with field position, and taking the ball away is the best way to put your offense in great field position.
Yeah, just look 1 week ago. The Broncos were able to score 24 points.
Yeah.
I would sign up for that on a week-in, week-out basis. Not the greatest, but I would sign up for it. But how did they get their first points? The defense gave them the ball at the 4-yard line.
Yeah,
So it's just like an easy, of course you're going to score in that position then. So I totally agree that that's going to be a big key. And like I said, the Lions have turned the ball over a lot. So I'm not concerned about Jared Goff. And speaking of the turnovers, the past 6 games, the Lions have turned the ball over 13 times.
Crazy.
That's a lot, over 2 per game, and they've won some of those games. In fact, they've had 2 games with 3 turnovers and 1 game with 4 turnovers.
Dang.
What's the score if the Broncos get 4 turnovers against the Lions?
Maybe 30 to 10.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, they're not really stopping people. Everybody's scoring at least 26 points on them.
Yep.
So if we get 4 turnovers, I think we can get to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what does scare me is just the weapons surrounding Jared Goff. We talked about the running backs, but then Sam Laporta, probably the best rookie tight end in the NFL this year, and honestly, one of the best tight ends. Just take away the rookie tag on him. One of the best tight ends in the NFL this year. And then also St. Brown, an incredible receiver, and Jared Goff loves him. But what's crazy is it doesn't stop with those 2 guys. Jared Goff has been distributing the ball. Their offensive coordinator, there's a reason Ben Johnson is up for many head coaching jobs after this year, and why he'll become a head coach, potentially of the Carolina Panthers. He's believed to be a front runner there. It's because he's really good at maximizing his players. Guess how many Broncos, outside of Russ, position players, have 5 or more touchdowns this year?
Outside of Russ, so Courtland. And that's it.
That's it. That's it. And that shows how good Courtland's been with 10 touchdowns. No one else on the team has 5. How many would you guess the Lions have outside of Goff?
Well, Laporta, maybe. St. Brown, maybe. Montgomery, maybe.
Yep.
Is there another one?
Yep. Gibbs, the other running back.
Okay.
Yep. And then there's even one more.
Dang.
They've got 5 guys with 5 or more touchdowns, which is wild that the Broncos are only 2 games behind these guys in the standings when you think of only one guy on the Broncos has 5 or more touchdowns, and 5 Lions. So they can get the ball to so many people, which thankfully last week it was like, put Pat on Keenan Allen, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Exactly.
This week, no, not this week. And that's why maybe P.J. Locke, not having him, is even more of a concern. If you're playing then a young safety that doesn't have much experience, Fabian Moreau is going to be tested more. I feel comfortable with Fabian Moreau. I also feel very comfortable with Jaquan. But it's going to be more than just, okay, put Pat on St. Brown, and you're going to be good. No, Jared Goff is good at finding guys. So it's going to put more of a stress on the defense, not just because they can spread it to so many people, but they can run the ball. They can pass the ball. And Todd, you know all about defense. Is this defense ready for that?
I think they are. And I think the guys understand that these matchups are pretty key. I mean, even talking to Josie and Alex, the first thing they brought about were the 2 running backs and the tight ends. Like, that's their bread and butter for this week. That's who they need to really take advantage of. And, you know, they're going to do their job, and they're going to hope that the safeties and the corners are able to cover their wide receivers. But everybody has to be very dialed into their specific matchups, because you never know where Jared Goff is going to go with the ball, because he distributes it so well. Yeah,
100%. And then on the other side of the ball, when I just think of Dan Campbell, I think of the mentality he brings, the physicality, the biting kneecaps. We're going to claw our way back. I think, man, that's got to lead to a great defense. And it hasn't. You need players, and they have some players there, but that's still something that they're working on. Last year, they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. This year, for the first half of the season, it seemed like they had really turned their defense around to be like an average defense, which was a big jump from last year. Hasn't really been the case the past few weeks, though, Todd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when your offense is doing well, then your defense is not on the floor very much, or not on the field very much, and they're having to put these other offenses in predictable situations. They're able to get after the pass and really play to their strengths. Now that your offense is struggling, you're on the field a little bit more. You got to be able to step up and make big plays, and they haven't been able to do so. And they've been getting beat over the top. There's a lot of opportunity for us there, so we got a good game ahead of us.
Yeah, and like you said, every team in the past 6 games, I think, has scored 26 or more points against these Lions. So they have really come back to earth on the defensive side of the ball. I should say not come back to earth. What's like worse than coming back to earth? Like they've been buried?
Yeah.
Buried alive, honestly. Because in the past, it's the past 5 games. Here's the total number of points they've given up in their past 5 games. 38 points to the Chargers. Let me run through these offenses for you first. Tell me if they're good or bad. Chargers with Justin Herbert.
Trash.
Love it. Bears.
Kind of trash.
Packers.
Pretty bad.
Saints.
Pretty bad.
And then Bears.
Kind of trash.
So trash, borderline trash offenses that they've played in the past 5 games. They've given up almost 30 points per game. 29.8 points per game, with the lowest, like you said, being that 26 points to the Bears a couple of weeks ago. Last week they gave up 28 points to the Bears, then 28 points to the Saints, then 29 points to the Packers, 26 to the Bears 4 weeks ago, and then 5 weeks ago, 38 points to the Chargers. The Broncos offense, I know they're not world beaters, but they're better than the quality of those average teams. This should be a 30-point performance for this team.
Yeah, I think it should be a good one. I'm hesitant to say that because, you know, even against the Chargers, who have a terrible defense, we didn't start very strong. And if it's not for, you know, the turnover at the 3-yard line, I don't think we score until much later in that game. So I think we're going to have a good game. I don't know how many points we're going to score.
And it does feel like when I say the 24-point mark, it's like, yeah, they can get there, but then feeling confident about much more than that. I agree. I hesitate a little bit, so I'm curious where you're going to put the Broncos point total when we get there. And I think it was Brad from PFF yesterday. He said the Broncos will be able to run the ball against this Lions defense, and then Russ is going to be able to throw outside the numbers against them. This fits really well what the Broncos want to do.
Absolutely.
It's going to be, they're going to be able to have their formula if Sean wants this week. 40 rushing attempts and then 20 passing attempts. And even with that, I think the deep shots are still going to be there for Russ, especially because they're going to have to play up in order to stop the Broncos' rushing attack. And their run game, their pass defense on the year is bad. Their run defense on the year has been actually good, but not the past 4 games. The past 4 games, the Lions have given up 183 yards on the ground, 109 yards on the ground, 113 yards on the ground, and 142 yards on the ground. So they're giving up about 140 yards on the ground the past 4 games.
Yeah, so we need to come out running the ball. We don't have to try and take shots to start. Run the ball, make them get into a heavy box, and then we take our shots one-on-one on the outside. But definitely we should come out running.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's really two guys that stick out to me. Aiden Hutchinson, who, man, I'm shocked after watching week 1, him go up against the Lions, or him go up against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs tackle was jumping off every single time, but it was never called. He just looked like a beast. I'm shocked he only had 6.5 sacks, because he is a guy that could go off for 2 or 3 sacks in a single game. But for the most part, he's been able to be contained. So the Broncos, with how they contain Khalil Mack, how they contain Myles Garrett, they absolutely could contain him. Yeah,
I think we do it a couple of different ways. So definitely chips and help in protection, but I actually also like run at him, make him have to think when he's out there, not just be able to get off the ball and get after our tackles. Like send some pullers his way, chop his knees a couple bit. Don't take his kneecaps out, but just, you know what I'm saying? Lower leg, hit his lower leg. I think there's a way to make him kind of have to think a little bit more, because he's still a young player. Right. I think he's still like learning the game and understanding playing in the NFL. So make him think as much as possible. Yep.
And then Brian Branch, their rookie kind of versatile defensive back from Alabama. He's been a monster for them, especially when it comes to taking the ball away. So just make sure you have your eyes on him. He's up there in tackles for a loss, quarterback hits, even being a safety, getting pressures. They send him all over. He reminds me of Jaquan McMillan for the Broncos.
Yeah, he's definitely playing at a high level, so got to know where he's at all times.
So, Todd, are the Broncos going to win this game? Let's get into our picks. Let's go around the AFC West after I tell you about our friends over at Primo Hoagies. Primo Hoagies, Saturday Night Football this week. You're going to want to make sure you got the drinks ready, the food ready for dinner, and Primo Hoagies is there to hook you up. Pretty much anyone that we bring on this set, what was it? Was it Alex saying, man, Primo Hoagies are great? James Palmer gives them his stamp of approval. Everyone loves Primo Hoagies, so make sure to check them out and go to PrimoHoagies.com. You can order your trays in advance, your party trays, or you can just check them out, one of their couple of locations in Denver or across the country at PrimoHoagies.com. It's not just a Primo, it's a hoagie. Or it's not just a hoagie, it's a Primo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if you love the golf much like I do, check out our friends over at Golf Passport, Colorado's #1 golf discount program for 22 years running. More golf, more lessons, more gear, and more deals. Up to 60% off on golf across the state, including the Ridge, Common Ground, Keystone, and more. A free golf cart included with every trip. Offers other discounts at the PGA Tour Store, Golf Tech, and numerous indoor facilities. Go to www.coloradoavidgolfer.com/golf passport to get yours now.
Did you see what happened, before we get into our picks, did you see what happened in the NBA last night with Giannis?
Yeah, going crazy.
Have you ever been a part of something like that, whether it was like in high school or up to the NFL, where there was a battle for a game ball after the game?
I was involved in a funny situation with one of my teammates. Dang, I'm blanking on his name. He came, Adam Jones.
Okay.
So he came to the Broncos, and he got in a fight with a young receiver on practice squad, and they were kind of going at it. And so the coach sends the young guy off because, it is what it is. You got to give it to the old head. Sends him in the locker room. I'm standing there talking to Pat. Adam, and he's just like a little bit mad. All of a sudden, he just darts off into the locker room. And like me and like 3 other dudes have to run and grab him because he's about to jack this young kid up if we don't get him. And luckily, like he ran in there and he's looking for him. I don't know where the kid went, if he was in the training room or what, but he wasn't in the locker room, thank God, because it would have been bad. Gosh. It would have been bad. So we got him, we grabbed him, pulled him back outside. So that's probably the closest I've been to it.
Oh, man. And I get how it can be heated in the moment. I mean, we training camp fights happen all the time, and it doesn't mean that you hate the guy. But I remember, was it Emmanuel and Chris went at it a couple of times, and then Emmanuel and was it Courtland? I think it was. It was like guys in the same room. That was a little unique to see. But I've never seen grown men go after a game ball like was going after it last night. Little child.
It was different. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's get back into the NFL and pick the games around the week. And we have an awful game tonight, Todd. We've got Easton Stick and the Dead Chargers going up against, do we know who the starting quarterback is? I think it's going to be Aiden O'Connell, but I don't know. They left that open. Could be Aiden O'Connell, could be Jimmy Garoppolo, could be Brian Hoyer of the Raiders. That's our Thursday night football tonight.
It's trash. They can be flexed out, huh? You can only flex Sunday night games, not Thursday night?
I think that's right. And I think this year they made it so you can flex Monday night as well. But yeah, I think Thursday is locked in because every team has to have a Thursday night game for whatever reason.
Okay, so I guess it is what it is. This is a tough one. I think both of these teams they're out of the playoffs. They don't have much to play for. Maybe the Raiders get a win tonight over Easton Stick and the Chargers. I think any quarterback that the Raiders play is going to have a little bit more understanding or energy for, this football game. So I'm going to give the Raiders the win. It sucks to say it. But.
Yeah, and I think that's actually what you just said kind of gave me the reason why I'm going to pick the Raiders as well. Neither team does have anything to play for. Maybe I just give the slight edge in that regard to the Raiders because, unfortunately, I think everyone kind of knows Staley's done after this year, especially after they weren't able to make a late season push. They're 5-8. Now you have a backup quarterback who's not the future because everyone knows Justin Herbert's the future. They don't have Keenan Allen tonight anymore, so they're without their 2 offensive guys, including their quarterback. That's really tough. But then I guess the Raiders could still be fighting for their head coach. He could still be making a push to get that full-time head job. Aiden O'Connell or whoever starts a quarterback could be making the push to be their guy next year. So just because of that, I give him the push. I'll be tuned
on. I don't know if I'll be watching.
Yeah.
I'll just have it on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, and then the Chiefs playing the Patriots. This is one of the, according to Vegas, one of the worst games of the weekend. 9.5 point spread favoring the Chiefs in New England. Do you think it's going to be that bad of a game?
I don't think it's going to be that bad of a game. You know Bill Belichick's game plan is always to take away your best player. So I think they're going to try to take away Travis Kelce and force one of these other guys to catch the ball. And I don't know how well they'll do. Their defense has been playing actually pretty well. So I think they'll have a good challenge on their hand. The Chiefs will. So I think the Chiefs will win, but I don't think it'll be by more than 9.5 points.
Yeah, and I don't know what the over-under is here, but I'd probably take the under big time here because the Chiefs' defense is good. They're not going to let a backup quarterback do work on them in New England, and the Patriots' defense is also really good. And like you said, they're great at taking Travis Kelce out. When you take Travis Kelce out, Isaiah Pacheco might not play. The Chiefs will win. I don't like that 9.5 points.
No,
so
I don't either.
I would stay away from that as well. And you hear we've got, when it comes to the other people on our team, we've got everyone picking the Raiders to win as well. And then in tonight's game, or in the Patriots game, Ryan is picking the Chiefs. And Henry's picking the Patriots.
Oh, my gosh.
We can't save him.
No,
I mean, at least he's going all in on this.
He is.
He's
sticking to his game plan.
If he thinks that they can beat the Chiefs, then I guess it's fair for him to say that the Broncos should be a little concerned of them. Alexis is going Chiefs as well. Chasen has kind of worked for Henry recently. Man, I hope Henry's right, though.
Because that would be great for us.
Broncos would be tied with the Chiefs with 3 games left. And Patriots have to be the easiest team that the Chiefs play the rest of the way.
Yep.
Because they play the Raiders, the Chargers, easy teams, but Patriots are really bad on offense.
Terrible,
so let's go, Henry. I hope you're right here. Okay, let's look around the rest of the AFC to see some of these games that impact the Broncos. Let's look at the schedule here because there's a lot of other games that I want to get your opinion on, Todd, because there's some big ones here. Vikings playing a third-string quarterback. I guess that's what you would call him.
Yeah.
The cat from San Francisco. Why can't I think of his name?
Which one?
Oh, man, you hear who's starting for the Vikings tonight. Nick Mullins.
Okay.
Yep. Nick Mullins. They've now benched Josh Dobbs for Nick Mullins. The Vikings are 7-6, though. They're in the NFC playoffs.
Yep.
They're going up against the Bengals, who are on their second-string quarterback in Jake Browning. Broncos want the Vikings in this one. Can the Vikings pull it off?
Man, after that performance last week, 3-0 against the Raiders, this might be tough. And then you're switching quarterbacks at the same time.
Yeah.
And the Bengals quarterback performed pretty well his last outing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Bengals will take that one.
In Cincinnati, I agree with you. Now, the hope would be, I'll flip what you said about the 3-0 and say, well, the Vikings defense is the best defense in the NFL the past 8 weeks, and they just held the Raiders, which doesn't mean much, to 0 points. So maybe they're able to shut down Jake Browning, but I agree. There's just, it's going to be the Bengals, unfortunately, but that one would help the Broncos a lot if the Vikings are able to win that game. In this game, who do the Broncos want? You have the 7-6 Steelers going into Indianapolis to play the 7-6 Colts.
I would say I would take the Steelers to win.
Yep.
I would take the Steelers to win. I think they're going to fall apart sooner than later, so
yep.
I would let them win now and then fall apart.
Totally agree. Yeah. I completely agree. Unfortunately, I don't think that's how this game's going to go. I think the Colts will win because I agree. I think the Steelers are already falling apart.
Yep.
Not able to beat the Patriots at home.
Yeah.
And then the week before, not able to beat the Cardinals at home.
Yep.
It's the first time in NFL history that a team with a winning record, I think, has lost back-to-back games against teams that are 8 games below 500 or more.
Wow. That's what happens when you overlook them. I think that they just, they think it's going to be easy games.
Yeah.
And so they overlook them and then come in there and whoop you. And then, it should never went down like that. But they weren't focused, man.
And it's bad when the home crowd is cheering for Mason Rudolph to come in and be the quarterback. That's how bad it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And people think that Jerry Jeudy has had some bad body language in Denver. George Pickens has had even worse body language as their star receiver out there in Pittsburgh. So I am still a little afraid of the Colts because I just think that they have great coaching, it seems, and Gardner Minshew is a good enough quarterback for them. So if they could lose this week, I think that would help a lot here. Let's continue. Bears going into Cleveland. Joe Flacco, practice squad quarterback. The 5-8 Bears, who are picking up a little bit of steam, can they beat the 8-5 Browns?
Not if old man Joe can play like he did last week, because they have a good defense. They were missing like a solid quarterback. They had some guys in there that weren't the best, and they were still finding ways to win games. So if old man Joe can just put a couple more together, I think that they'll do pretty well.
Todd, in 5 years, do you think you could go out and play one NFL game solid?
One.
Just one.
Yeah, I think I can do one. One with a good offense.
Yep.
Where I'm not on the field for 80 snaps.
Yep, that's true.
With 45, 50 snaps, I might give you that.
I got confidence in you. I think you could do that too. Now, what if I said go play another week right after?
Nah, probably not.
See?
Not that.
Old man Joe, I think that's what's going to happen this week. And the Bears, after getting Montez Sweat, they've actually been a good defense, and Justin Fields has been at least good. I actually don't think that they can beat them. I think they will beat them, and I think that will really help the Broncos here. But also, it's hard to overlook what the Browns' defense has done.
Yep.
Outside of playing the Broncos, and the Broncos did a great job dropping 29 on them, the Browns' defense has been elite this year, so you're not crazy to say that that's not going to happen. But I'm going to say that the Bears pull off that upset and help the Broncos here. Continuing to go around and look at other games that matter. The Texans, 7-6, going in to Tennessee to play the 5-8 Titans. The Titans somehow found life this past week. First time since 2016. There's been 768 games in this span where a team has been up by 14 or more points with 3 minutes left. The first 767 of those, that team has won.
Yep.
Except the Titans. They came back and beat the Dolphins of all teams with their great offense. They came back and beat them. Any chance the Titans can beat the Texans this week?
Yeah, because the Texans aren't going to have Tank Dell's out for the year, and C.J. Stroud's going to be out, right?
I think he is going to be out.
Yeah, I think this is a recipe for disaster for them. So I think the Titans definitely have an opportunity to win this game.
And that would be huge.
Yeah.
Because just 1 week ago, you and I both thought the Texans were going to go 4-1 or 5-0 to end the season, and then you have an injury to your most important position and your most important player and a guy that's borderline MVP conversation, then yeah, absolutely, I think Tennessee can win. So What have we kind of been saying for a couple of weeks? Things have been breaking right for the Broncos.
Every time.
It just continues to break right for the Broncos. And a couple more games here. This one is a heck of a game that Broncos, I'll be tuning into on Sunday afternoon. And Broncos country, I think, will be as well. Dallas going into Buffalo. The 10-3 Cowboys coming off a massive beatdown of the Eagles. Playing the 7-6 Bills in Buffalo. The Bills are favored in this game.
I wouldn't have thought that.
No.
I mean, they beat the Chiefs last week, but the Chiefs are not the Chiefs they used to be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they beat a medium squad.
Yep.
So I would definitely still take the Cowboys in this.
I agree. I mean, plus money on a Cowboys team that, man, I'm starting to believe in. Maybe not for a Super Bowl run because they've never been able to get it done, but I actually think they're like a very good team now.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that if Josh conversation.
Wow. I haven't thought of him being in the MVP conversation since like week 5 or something.
Too many interceptions, man.
Yeah.
He's putting his team. You can't be the MVP and then put your team in that many bad situations.
Yep.
In my opinion.
I totally agree, especially when they have like a good defense as well. So I think Dallas will win that game.
Yep.
It's another great break for the Broncos there. And then one other AFC game that the Broncos could have some cheering interest for, the Ravens, Sunday Night Football. 10-3 Ravens playing the 8-5 Jags in Jacksonville. Jags probably going to win that division, but the Ravens are for sure going to win their division. The Broncos aren't going to catch the Ravens. So I think Broncos country is going to be pulling hard for the Ravens, and just maybe a hope that Jacksonville doesn't win their division, and then Broncos can overtake them in the AFC wildcard race.
That's a hope.
Yeah.
That's a hope for sure.
It is a hope, but there's a lot of games. And what sets up nice is tonight's game doesn't impact the Broncos at all because both the teams in the AFC West are trash.
The Jags are 8-5 right now?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think they'll lose to the Ravens. So we'll be 8-6.
Oh, that's true. The Broncos
and
are
then
7.
we'll be 8-6.
Yeah.
If we beat the Lions.
Yeah, you're right. And they might if the Texans lose, the Jags will still be on top of their division. But you're right in terms of like wild card stuff. If the Texans were to jump the Jags, then that really does matter.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I just keep forgetting that the Broncos are just one game out of these teams that are 8-5.
We're in the mix, baby.
Yeah, right there. So definitely a game kind of to watch tonight. A game on Saturday before the Broncos game in the AFC that you can watch, and obviously Broncos game on Saturday night. Then Sunday, there's plenty of games to be following along. Monday Night Football is the Eagles and the Seahawks. So if you want to cheer against the Seahawks after what they said about Russ, you can do that, but that one doesn't have any bearing on the Broncos in their playoff spot. And Broncos don't have to take care of the division, the win this week, but it would certainly help.
Yep.
And Todd, I want your picks for this game after I tell you about our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing, where if you need a roof over your head, now is the time to call because winter is definitely here. Snow again this morning. I had no idea we're going to wake up to snow. And if you need a roof for your home or business, make sure to check out our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com, where they have decades of experience, a quick response time. They're Colorado's best estimators and contractors. They're huge DNVR supporters. They have free, no-obligation roof and property inspections, free in-depth photo reports for all inspections. So make sure to tell them that DNVR sent you over at redhawkroofing.com.
And even though it snowed today, I think it's still bright outside. And, you know, sometimes when the sun hits that snow and it gets really bright, you got to have your Shady Rays ready. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that is just as good as any expensive pair we've worn, durable frames, and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. Also, a great thing about Shady Rays is if you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase them. They have shades, they have goggles if you love hitting the slopes. Make sure you're protected with your Shady Rays. And right now, you can get 50% off 2 or more polarizing shades if you use code DNVR on their website. So check out our friends at Shady Rays.
Boom. There we go. Let's hop into parting shots to talk to the people one last time, to also get our Broncos picks. Parting shots presented by Breckenridge Distillery, where if you need some bourbon this week, go to BreckenridgeDistillery.com to find out where you can get some Breckenridge Distillery. Todd's going to be flowing here at the DNVR bar Saturday night, but it's really going to be flowing Friday night. We have our office Christmas party, holiday party this Friday night, which is going to make Saturday night's game interesting.
It'll be very interesting.
A little hair of the dog?
Probably get an IV Saturday morning.
Oh, man. For my bachelor party that I had earlier this year, we went up to the mountains, and I needed one so bad.
Yep.
We were in the mountains.
And there was no one around?
No one around. They're like, oh, no, we don't go that far. I was like, no. So, yeah, being in Denver, we'll be able to get them on Saturday before the Broncos game.
It's necessary.
Man, I also love that that the Broncos players were able to convince Sean, no, we don't want to stay in Detroit on Saturday night. We want to come home. And Sean's like, okay, I'll do it.
There's nothing there. No. I mean, no disrespect to anybody listening to Detroit, but
no, full disrespect.
I'm in and out. And it's like, you know how it's kind of muggy today? It's like that 24/7. Like, I need to see the sun. Gotta get out of here.
Todd doesn't know this, but I have deep hatred for certain places that I've never been to. Detroit and Utah are my top two. Like, screw those two places, like, every day of the week.
Any justification for it, or?
No, I hate their sports teams and I hate everything about them, so screw those two locations, and it's that easy.
Dan Campbell might be coming for your kneecaps, you hear. Watch out.
Yo, come on ahead. You can have my kneecaps. You don't even got to try, dude.
You be rolling in.
Dude, I feel bad for him. He lives in Detroit. Like, I'll give him my kneecaps. Like, it's fine.
He actually just seems like the perfect coach for Detroit.
Yep.
Like, regardless of the sport.
Yeah, for sure.
He really does. But you hear, you're wearing the Detroit Lions colors, though.
And nah, they're not Detroit Lions. It's a baby blue. It's pretty. True. It's an actual nice blue.
He said it's pretty.
It's pretty. I'm a pretty man. What do you want from me?
Well, one of the things the Broncos won't have to worry about this week is the weather when they're playing football, because it'll be shitty weather in Detroit, no doubt. But it'll be a dome over, so they won't have to worry about the weather that, Todd, you had to worry about. But get us fired up as if there is going to be that weather, Todd.
I got it. Turn up, TD. Let's go get this man. Turn it up. Oh my God. But this feels fucking great. This feels fucking great right here, baby. Hey, we got to cross the line. It's time to whoop their ass. It's time to whoop their ass. Let's bring it to these boys now. Let's go, y'all. It's all out. Let's go to one. Let's go to one. Broncos on three. 1, 2, 3. Broncos.
Oh, man, I love you. Here's hatred for Utah and Detroit just out of the blue.
I know. While that video was playing, he was saying how much he hates Utah and Detroit.
You know what, dude? I also put Charlotte in there. There's a lot of places. If you ever listen to the Rapids pod, I have a lot of hate.
Yeah, you've
never been to these places. But
you gotta go.
St. Louis, miss me. Kansas City, miss me. Don't need to go to know.
Dang, that's cold.
So what about places you've been to that you hate? What's your hatred level for those places?
I actually hate them. I actually learn to love places once I visit them.
So that's what
it's it's very irrational hate, but I live by it, and that's who I am.
Oh my God!
Do we need to send you to Detroit for this game then?
Hell no.
For you to love them?
The one place Eminem can keep Detroit. I'm cool with that.
Todd, are the Broncos going to whoop the ass of the Lions?
Oh man, I'm so torn. But at the same time, I have faith in the Broncos. You know, I feel like they have a good enough offense to take advantage of what this defense will give them. Our defense just needs to come and stop the run. I think that's key number one. Yep. So if we can do that, we're going to put our team in a very good position to win. They've been giving the ball away, creating turnovers. We've been taking it away. So it's a match made in heaven for us to get a couple more turnovers this week, and we know how important that is for our team. So I'm going to put the margin right at that 26 number that they've been kind of consistent with the last couple of weeks. So 26 for the Broncos, 20 for the Lions.
Boom. So not only do you have them covering the spread, I'm going to make this up. You have them covering the reverse spread. Just made that up where it's right now Lions are 4.5, 5-point favorites. You have the Broncos even covering that number with the 4.5 to 5.
Flip the script on them, baby.
I love it. I love it. And Todd, I love the Broncos to cover the spread. I like the Broncos to win this game and I might even like the Broncos to really kind of blow them out.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is a 10-point win. I'm
right.
going to do it. I'm going to go 30-20. Wow. You hear type the score in before I even said what the score was. That was impressive.
You put 30 in there, it's kind of obvious that I know how to do math, unlike people in Utah.
So when it comes to the spread, I think the Broncos are going to win this spread by 15 points. I think the Broncos will be able to drop 30 because if the Bears and the Packers and the Chargers and the Bears again, and the Saints are able to drop 29.8 points against the Lions, I think the Broncos will be able to do this. And I think this is going to be a fun game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 34-31, like a high-scoring game. Just the way the Broncos defense has been playing, I can't say that the Lions are going to score 31 points on them or the Lions are even going to score 27. So I like a lot of turnovers in this game from the Broncos defense and maybe even a Broncos score. Maybe Josie, his legs aren't as tired and he's able to scoop and score and actually bring it in.
Yeah. He got to have one of those just to make up for last week.
Yeah.
He got to be ready, man. I'm gonna text him, make sure he's ready.
I think you guys are giving the Lions too much credit. I think it's going to be like 27-14, 27-10.
Well, the Lions can turn it on at times. They just have been off for a couple weeks, so.
And I don't think they're turning it on against this defense. That's the honest truth.
I am nervous about the score because they're going to come out running the ball. And I can't say that we can just stop the any team's running game.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I'm giving them 20 because,
How much did they score against the Packers? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
The Lions?
Yeah.
I don't know how much they scored against the Packers, but I think last week, didn't they lose to the Bears like 28-13?
It was bad.
So they only scored 13 points. Which one's worse, allowing the Bears to score 28 or only scoring 13 points?
Only scoring 13 points. I mean, and they still had over 120 yards of rushing. Yeah. So.
Did he say 27 or 26?
Me, 26.
And Todd, that is the one thing that scares me about this game too. You mentioned it. Over 120 yards. Both of their running backs had over 60 rushing yards, over 6 yards per carry, and they didn't even try to run the ball. Like they each running back ran the ball 10 times. 20 attempts isn't the worst, but that's not really trying to run the ball to have 120 yards.
Yep.
If I'm them, I'm saying I'm not allowing Jaquan to be flying off the edge to sack Jared Goff. I'm not going to allow Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton and Pat Surtain and Justin Simmons and Zach Allen and Baron Browning to tee off on Jared Goff. They're going to have to stop the running game.
Exactly.
In fact, I might run the ball until I have to punt the first time. And then maybe you open it up to the pass a little bit. The Ben Johnson, who does seem like he knows what he's doing, he should not try to pass the ball until he's forced to in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we look at all the teams that have played us, and even the Browns coming out trying to pass the ball. They're like, oh, they didn't really try to run. Then you look at the stat sheet. Oh, they still averaged like 5.5, 6 yards a carry. Last week they didn't try to run. They averaged 5 yards a carry. We're like, oh shoot, like I hope they don't have the mentality like we're just gonna try and run, nonstop, because the way we have those all the blitz packages and all the unique looks, they're great in passing downs. But if you get caught one of those in a rushing down, it's always one tackle away from a huge play. Because everybody's up on the line and everybody has a responsibility. If one guy misses his tackle, then it's like the guy usually is close to hitting his head on the goalpost.
Is there a difference between a run blitz and a pass blitz, or is a blitz for the most part just meant to bring pressure on the quarterback?
I think there is a difference because usually run blitzes are completely gapped out blitzes, where pass blitzes are blitzes that have moving parts. And they are more concerned about like covering the edges, so containing it, and then also moving parts to create open gaps, as opposed to run blitzes are like everybody hit your gap, and we're gonna have two guys maybe cross, so they're hitting gaps as well, but it's very, very intentional on how they blitz downhill in specific gaps.
Right. So you might not be able to. You're not seeking out open pockets necessarily if you're doing more of a run blitz.
Exactly.
Because then if you seek out an open pocket, and it could open up the responsibility you're supposed to have in the run blitz, and then that's the touchdown you're talking about.
Yeah, very similar to how I broke down the play last week, how Nick Bonito had the ability to kind of like play off of each guy.
Right.
He was kind of reading from hole to hole. Pause. That kind of thing will leave you very vulnerable in the run game because if, let's just say, those two guys get caught in the same hole. Pause.
I need to learn from you.
If they get caught in the same spot, then there's a wide open hole somewhere that the running back can hit.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So if they're able to run the ball well, all these exotic blitzes that we loved last week and the super aggressive Vance Joseph play style, that will have to change.
Yep. For sure. Or we'll have to limit it to third down.
Right.
Because we saw it a little bit on first down, saw a little bit on second down. He definitely opened it up more because I think he had the ability to. But if they're running the ball, okay, then now we got to get back to the basics. We got to have our two linebackers in their position. We got to have our D lineman, DJ Jones. Like I said, we got to have them hitting gaps. And we have to get a little bit more vanilla to stop the run.
So tell me if I'm wrong on this, but what makes the Broncos defense click like it has been is limiting the run, because then that can kind of open everything else up?
For sure. If you make teams one-dimensional, I think the best thing the Broncos do right now is their passing game, but the back end, and then also their blitzing. And that all comes from making teams have to pass, or when you get teams that want to pass, that plays into your strengths.
I love it. I love deep football talk here on a Thursday. I love it, Todd. I love learning from you. And let's give the other picks here from the other people, because you are the most confident in the Broncos. Then it's me. Then it's Todd, tied with Ryan. Ryan's got the Broncos winning this, hitting the under 23-17. Then it's, Alexis. She's got the Broncos winning 20-13 in the under. And Henry is the least confident in the Broncos. Shocker. He's got the Broncos winning, though, 30-27. And Todd, Vegas thinks you are spot on about how this game is going to unfold.
Just out of the way.
Except flip it. Right now they've got the over-under set at 47.5, so they're kind of thinking a 26-21 game favoring the Lions. We all think it's going to be the opposite, but Vegas says you're closest to the score of what it's going to be. Man, we will be here Saturday night, so make sure to tune in with us before the game. We'll be doing the pregame show. It's a 6:15 game, so tune in right around 5:30-ish on DNVR Sports YouTube, and then also make sure to tune in after the game on Saturday night. Roll with us starting around 9:30, and our website. We're getting a whole new website over at thednvr.com. It's going to be big time, in the words of Todd. We're going to be doing that this weekend, so we're not going to have our website up this week. So if you want any content from DNVR, make sure to check us out on the podcast side, wherever you find podcasts, or on YouTube. That's going to be the two places where you can find us this weekend after the game. And before we get out of here, got a super chat coming in from our friend Jacob, who says, imagine if they'd beat Las Vegas or the Commanders and Houston, but Lions are going to get dickled down by the Dirty D. And that patented Dickel defense. Where's Dickel come from?
I don't know. This chat is crazy. I don't know where it comes from.
It is crazy.
I can tell you where it's from. So Todd won't do it, but I will.
It was me. Okay. So I was talking about the defense, and I was talking about nickel defenses, and I said Dickel. Oh, my bad, nickel. And they've been running with it ever since.
I love it. The Todd signature.
Yep,
Do you want us to roll with it or stop with it?
Todd wanted it to stop a long time ago, so I haven't yet. But I give Todd a look every time it comes up, and Todd knows what it is.
And I had no idea.
It's
Todd, as you'll
hilarious.
learn, so many things just fly right over my head. And that's why people try to get me, and clearly the comments get me with that. You know what's, people keep pointing to those Commanders, Raiders, and even the Texans game, and to me, the Broncos have made up for those because they're in a position where essentially they control their own destiny. Now, if they drop one or two of these next games that they should win outside of the Lions game and they miss the playoffs by a game, then we'll be able to point at those games. But to me, I'm kind of over those games right now because they've made up for them.
Exactly. If they just went out, I think, like you said, they control their own destiny. They're not waiting on anybody to win. They're not waiting on anybody to lose. So right now, those games are in the past. So we're in a really good position right now. We just got to win out.
If the Broncos beat the Lions, do they win out?
Yes, absolutely.
11-6.
Yeah.
From 1-5 to 11-6.
We said 12-5. We weren't far off.
No, we weren't. Sean made us sweat it a lot, but we'll look pretty smart at the end. Thank you guys so much for rolling with us this week. Thank you, Todd, for rolling with me this week. Yahir, thank you for everything you do behind the camera. We will be back just before the game on Saturday. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy Saturday night football coming up. We'll talk to you before and after the game.
We all silly like the mayor.